All right, it's now 4 minutes after 7, and it's time for State of the Nation. State of the Nation is where we put our pulse on the nation and check whether we have a healthy heartbeat. This time, it is matters politics, and it has been a wash from the time the president read the Executive Order number 1, 2019, expanding the role for the CS for Interior Security, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. There has been all sorts of narratives going round, and some of them, of course, declaring that maybe this is meant to sideline the deputy president as the president works to either have somebody else maybe run as president, and of course that would be seen by some as betrayal and going against the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between the president and the deputy president in 2013 and 2017. The other school of thought is that Dr. Matiang'i has been a performer. He has been known to be no-nonsense and to some extent even follow to the letter the instructions from the president and the presidency. Some may view that as a dictatorial manner. Others may say he's just doing his job and doing it effectively and well. And as a result, if you do your job well, what is wrong with being given more to do and ensuring that the president leaves a legacy, knowing that this is his last term? But before we get into all that, we're going to be just going through that, and I'll be reading through your comments. But first, let us look at the constitutional definition of the role for the deputy president. What is the role of the deputy president as per the Constitution? And I'm glad that we have a lawyer with us here, Steve Ogolla, who's going to also just give us that framework and that definition. But there is the legal part of it and there is the political part of it. Let's look at some of those roles, if we can have those slides rolling. And according to Article 147, Part 1, the deputy president shall be the principal assistant of the president and shall deputize the president in execution of Constitution of Kenya 2010, 87, and the president's functions. So, Ogolla, you're going to be defining what that exactly means. The deputy president shall also perform the functions conferred by his constitution and by the Constitution, any other function of the president as the president may assign. Number 3, subject to Article 134, when the president is absent or is temporarily incapacitated, and during any other period that the president decides, the deputy president shall act as the president. Many of us will remember that at some point the president did have that action when he was out of the country and he left the deputy president as the man in charge as he was out. The deputy president shall not hold any other state or public office as deputy president. So, very clear, but again, we discovered, especially during the time we were having the annihilation of the Constitution, or not the Constitution, but the presidential election, that lawyers will tell us the law is very clear, but then it becomes very blurry the minute they explain it. So can you make it very clear, what does that really mean in terms of the role of the deputy president?
In terms of the allure and prestige of the office of the deputy president, his core function is that he's the president in waiting. I'm talking about allure and prestige of that office. Being the president in waiting within the design of the Constitution was to assure us of continuity and stability as a nation. So there's never going to be an election for the president within 5 years unless a very unlikely scenario happens where you don't have the president and you don't have the deputy president. Beyond that, the deputy president, for all other practical purposes, is just an errand boy. I mean, we must say it as it is. When the Constitution says you will perform functions as may be assigned by the president, it requires a good and decent person who believes that you co-share into the vision for which you are elected as a ticket. But if he decides to outmaneuver you, he can use that provision under Article 132, under Article 147, Sub-Article 2, not to assign you any function. And you'll not say that I have been excluded. You'd only have to sit helplessly and wait and watch, you know, and pray that he finishes his term quietly and you launch your career. So in terms of the law, I want Kenyans to understand that the greatest innovation that our Constitution has given us is preservation of national tranquility, because elections disrupt tranquility. So as long as we have the president and the deputy president we are nearly certain that in the next 5 years, there will be no presidential election. That is the symbolic value, the symbolic and political value of the office of the deputy president. But in terms of the functional capabilities of that office, they are left at the discretion of the president. And that is also by design. Look at Article 132, Subarticle 3. And I already said that provision provides that the president is the one who directs and coordinates all government functions. Look at Article 131. It says that the president is the head of state and government, which means as a principal assistant, you are no more like than an errand boy or a PA. You wait to be assigned functions. Now, Mr. Getonga, what I want us to capture is this. And I'm just alerting Kenyans. With the, you know, governance requires, there's the law as we have it, then there's the politics around the law and politics as we know it. For preservation of that stability that the Constitution seeks to establish, you must preserve the office of the deputy president must not be undermined just because you know you can do it. You get? That is the uncommunicated provisions which you can't find there. The president must be careful not to manipulate provisions of Article 147, Sub-Article 2, and then say, in my second term, I can exclude this deputy for reasons not communicated publicly. But I can read Article 147, Sub-Article 2, and exclude him without offending. If he does that, Kenyans of good reason will know. And when Kenyans of good reason know that you are reading the Constitution as to exclude someone, that will in effect destabilize the Constitution.
Okay, and I'll come back to you on now the political side of it, but let me come to you, Honorable Kirwa, coordination of national projects by the Minister for Interior Security. There are those who read between the lines, and according to the law, there's nothing the President has done that is out of the law. It is really within the law. I mean, from what we've read as the definition of what the Deputy President is supposed to do and what he has done now to give or to have that executive order having coordination of national projects by Dr. Matiang'i. You've been in politics for a long time, and we see a shift or a change, whether it is written or unwritten, between how the president operated with the deputy president and how things are happening now. That has got to mean something politically.
Well, I think that there are a number of issues. One is that, thank God, our Constitution is written in simple English, and those of us who are well-versed with the English words do understand that the Deputy President has a constitutional role even when he has not been assigned any responsibility by the President. As per the Constitution, he has a role to play, and that is to be principal assistant to the President. And therefore, whatever the President does, he also does with the Deputy President. Remember, the cabinet is not complete without the President, the Deputy President, and the cabinet ministers. That is when the cabinet is complete. And therefore, whatever Dr. Matiang'i and his team will be doing, they will report to the cabinet. Because also by practice, a cabinet subcommittee cannot arrogate itself any responsibility beyond the assignment they have been given. This therefore means this coordination implementation, a report has to go back to the cabinet, where the Deputy President is part of that particular cabinet. And therefore, it would be overreaching ourselves to imagine that the Deputy President has now been sidelined. The obtaining situation is, if it was their first term, people would not have caused some of these ripples. Because what the Deputy President, and I said earlier, has been doing is to launch projects and also launch his campaign for 2022. And the President, in his wisdom, has realized there is more noise in launching of these projects than coordination of government work so that he can deliver on the mandate he has given to Kenyans. Do you feel the President
and the Deputy President are reading from the same script? And I'll give you a case in point. We had the President at one time announce and say that they're going to have no new projects being launched. That same weekend, we had the Deputy President launch some few projects. And it seems to me like there could be a bit of, lack of cohesion between the two.
What I'm reading is that the President and the Deputy, they have been like co-presidents in a way from 2013. And for him to assign him responsibility of coordination would be clouding the legacy. He wants to assign to a worker that he knows that he can decide to fire him or to reprimand him as the case may be. And that's why he has chosen in his wisdom that Dr. Matiang'i is going to do that particular role. Now, as far as the chemistry is concerned, that is a detail that those of us not in Jubilee may not be able to read. But what is important is that let us look at these two people. If the deputy president ascends to power after 2022 election, he's still got time to redeem his image and leave his legacy. Uhuru Kenyatta was not even excited 2013 to be president or to go to State House. He was born and brought up there. And therefore, he is more desirous on seeing his legacy or leaving an impact. Today, if you ask, what did Kibaki leave? People will give you so many things that they are associated with Kibaki. He may have had so many other problems, but you cannot fault him on development and economic growth.
Okay.
The president is desirous of meeting that particular issue.
All right.
In fact, my own imagination in future, and I'm not saying it, and you know the danger, Kitonga, is that we put names on constitutional matters. Even when you are showing us the functions of the deputy president, it has nothing to do with Ruto. It is the functions as per the constitution and as per the office. Now we are looking at Matiang'i and almost creating problems for him. It has nothing to do with Matiang'i. What the president has done is in 4 layers, from the top all the way up to county commissioner, for purposes of coordinating the government functions. And if Matiang'i left the way Mheshimiwa Mutambo said, somebody else will be playing that particular role because the president wants results and quickly.
All right, Honorable Mutambo, or shall I call you Captain Mutambo? You said you're Captain of Jubilee. There's definitely a change in chemistry and body language between the president and the deputy president. That is something that we can all admit to. Could this be part of it? So there are those who say that the president is somehow sidelining the deputy president. Even their public appearances have reduced compared to the first term.
You know, this debate takes me back to where I come from, Cumberland. And in Cumberland, they always believe nobody dies just naturally, unless they are bewitched. when nobody dies natural death, nobody dies natural death. And I want to believe Kenyans are all Kambas. Maybe they just chose some languages to speak. It is quite unfortunate that actually we are debating this matter at this magnitude. I mean, at this level, with this kind of magnitude. The work of deputy president as per the constitution is well spelled out. And I started by saying that actually the constitution was so clear, the drafters of the constitution, they were so clear, they even went ahead and said he should not and he cannot hold any other office apart from what he has been given by the president to do. When we had these functions before, we never had deputy president playing the role of coordinating the ministers. He was not coordinating the ministers. He was doing purely what he's supposed to do, although I don't like the way Kiro put it, that you'll continue launching, not coordinating. I did not like that word. But that is exactly what he was doing. He never coordinated any government duties. All what he did what was assigned to him by the president, and he actually acted within the parameters of our constitution. But because all Kenyans must be Kabas, we must come back now and say, you see now, the president did not consult. You remember we were treated to this consultation narrative when there was Kibaki and Raila when they were sharing the government. These people were not sharing the government. These people, they own the government. They were elected together at a one ticket. And without the way our constitution is, without a deputy president, there will be no presidential election. So the president will not be elected. And the presidency will not be complete without the deputy president. So I don't see too much, and I don't read too much in all this, because I don't think the president is now loosening his either trust or is leaning away from from his deputy. I want to believe those people are still intact and they still believe in one another, and they are giving Kenyans what they promised to them. So I would want to tell Kenyans to stop thinking or reading too much out of this. Politics, yes, we have to play, but above all, and I'm happy that we are sandwiched by, we did sandwich a lawyer here. There is no way we can override the power of our constitution.
Okay.
It is supreme. The constitution is supreme, no matter how much or how we want to put it. Yes, we will play our politics, but we have to play it within the parameters of the constitution.
All right, Steve, do you feel that, like what Honorable Mtambo says, there's really no cause for concern and things are on course? The president and the deputy president are on record at one time when the opposition was very vibrant and throwing jabs at them, saying that they need to sit out and wait for 20 years because 10 is Uhuru, 10 is Ruto. Do you feel that that is still what is on track even with this appointment?
Honorable Mtambo is being diplomatic and too charitable. The fact of the matter is this. Kenyan politics has a strong reputation for betrayal. And betrayal does happen when someone is exiting. I mean, we can't just wave it away and just assume that is not that has faded, especially in light of what has the recent political developments. No. I think if you look at the Constitution, the overall ideology in which the Constitution is organized requires politics of decency, honesty, dignity, discipline, and lesser and much lesser of relegation of bad manners and bad behaviors and betrayal. Can you really say, Mr. Gitonga, with certainty and evidence looking at the recent political developments that Kenyan political scene has matured, or politics in Kenya is now being played in a manner that is near consistent with our aspirations as a people if we are to look at the Constitution? I think the political elite have a bad reputation for manipulating the law. And that is my concern. And I've said, looking at CS Matiang'i's own reputation, he's a competent and capable CS, granted. Looking at the functional reassignment or reorganization of government, the president, strictly speaking, is within the law. But we also know that people have read the law to manipulate and exclude people that they don't like. I mean, that is, we can't overemphasize that. And I'm saying that kind of reading of the law is not what the Constitution intended to inspire. Look at Article 10. It requires participation, consultation, negotiation, deliberation in decision-making processes. Why hasn't the president come out, even in terms of political communication? If you are reorganizing government, as you have done, and you know Kenyans are acutely suspicious of how politicians behave, why not let the deputy president then to be the person to make this announcement? You get? Then you can formalize it later in terms of an executive order so that he co-owns the decision. You get? That would deal with speculation. Speculation is not just a product of laziness. Speculation is actually a product of awareness of how politics is organized. I want to urge the political elite, I am not interested in Jubilee politics, but as a Kenyan who is affected by their politics and the Jubilee administration, Jubilee must work within the options they have. They must not try to decampaign or delegitimize the office of the deputy president and the person of William Ruto. That would be grossly indecent. They negotiated this ticket in 2013, and at that time, they believed they needed each other. And their supporters voted for them as a unit. I've said, in terms of the law, for continuity. That is the greatest reputation of that office, preservation of continuity. But politically, because of this is how we want to organize governance, we believe together in this manifesto. In 2013, in 2017, you are re-elected as a unit. I mean, to then emerge in the last days, because of legacy politics, because of whatever reason, to exclude a principal partner, I think that would be grossly indecent. And I want to urge ANC and NASA not to cash in into the chaos within Jubilee, build your own reputation, say, for whatever reason, if Jubilee does not want William Ruto, that's their own problem. Don't pick a candidate from another party, make it your flag bearer, or don't pick a running mate from another party. If you are working to institutionalize political party democracy, based on known ideologies. If there is no significant ideological shift between Jubilee and NASA, then they better collapse and form one party.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, Mr. Gitonga, we can't have two political parties without ideologies. People keep on crossing lanes and shifting positions based on convenience. That is what will delay the full realization of the promises under the Constitution.
All right, Honorable Kira, your response to that, and NASA has been mentioned there. And of course, one of the problems that we have in Kenya is the fact that political parties don't seem to have a very clear and defined ideology.
Well, there are a number of things. One, the lawyer here does understand, unless he was in the arrangement between William and Uhuru, that was an arrangement between two individuals, and the rest of Kenyans were not involved to the extent of that particular understanding. Number two, the executive...
Can we say that when Kenyans voted for them as a unit? Kenyans were involved?
Not all Kenyans. There were some Kenyans who did not really take them as a ticket. And I don't want to talk about the contention in 2013 and 2017. So the issue is we are looking at it on average, that not all Kenyans accepted that as a ticket that was going to be permanent for 20 years. Otherwise, what is the role of democracy? And what is the role of opportunity to make decisions without being threatened by other forces? Now, number two, the executive authority is derived from the people. And the first person that is donated that authority is the president. And the president shares with the deputy president and so forth on equal proportion with the cabinet. And therefore, whatever they are doing in Jubilee is not really an issue that we are celebrating. What we are trying to do when we come here is not to analyze, but not to cash on the misfortunes of Jubilee. And what I've said, and this is the position that we feel we hold in ANC, we are in the opposition. And as long as we're in the opposition, we do not care what happens in Jubilee, but we care what happens in Kenya. Now, that ticket notwithstanding, there are so many things that may be happening in Jubilee that they have their own reasons why they are doing what they are doing. I'm saying this because what Mheshimiwa Mitambo said, when Waita was given the job of coordinating government deliverables, nobody raised an eyebrow. When Matiang'i has been given, people are raising it because we are on the eve of the next election, or we are expecting there's going to be a transition come 2022. Now, continuing to make the narrative look like Ruto is a victim of the circumstances is continuing to act on politics of deficit of knowledge and experience. Experience in the sense that government can be reorganized by the president as he so wishes. He can decide to have subcommittees. I remember the cabinet that I served for 5 years, we had about 4 subcommittees, and every subcommittee could not stand on its own. They have to report to the cabinet. What Matiang'i has been given is a subcommittee of the whole cabinet, except it cannot be called a cabinet because the president and the deputy are not there. And Uhuru wants to deliver on his legacy and is within his right as a Kenyan who has been given that mandate by the people of Kenya. You cannot say it is just by coming together that they were elected. They had to look at the individual personality of Uhuru and Ruto and say the two can make a good pair for us, better than the pair that was given by the alternative. Now, let's look at these things dispassionately. Ruto, whether he's going to run on Jubilee or not, if the people of Kenya will have said he's our next president, they will elect him. He can go back to URP. He can go to any other party.
And he's
because
free to do so.
In Kenya, and even in Africa, I can say this without fear of contradiction, parties do not exist. They are either crafted around personality or around tribe. And therefore, Ruto is not so much going to die because Jubilee has ditched him. Whether it is betrayal or lack of betrayal, these are dynamics of politics. You don't know what has happened between 2013 and now, that the chemistry between Uhuru and his deputy is not as good as it used to be. I have said it before. There are only 2 parties in Africa, CCM of Tanzania and the ANC of South Africa. The rest are vessels for elections, and Jubilee can as well perish. All right, Ruto can be the next president.
Honorable Mitambo, Jubilee can as well perish. It can go without because it's not a party per se. It's a special purpose vehicle, which may be along the way has gotten a puncture, and as it gets a puncture, maybe exiting of the deputy president to another party would not be something that is unforeseen.
I share the same views with Kirwa. But that is not my stand now, because Jubilee is still intact. So as a captain, it's not perishing now. It's not going to perish. It's going to remain until otherwise.
Do you agree that it's actually not a party? It's just a special purpose vehicle?
Not only Jubilee, let me tell you, not only Jubilee. History tells us we have come from far, and we have had, we've been here discussing this matter. We have had President Kibaki being elected with different two parties, 2 terms, and we have had Kenyatta, President Kenyatta also doing the same. He was elected with the TNA, now he's in Jubilee, so we don't know what will happen in the future. Maybe we'll have a Jubilee wiper, who knows, and I'm seeing that is the direction now, Jubilee wiper coming. I can see the signals, and the Bakassi by-election will tell you when we go out there. But that is a topic for another day. I don't want to start another debate. But let me tell Kenyans a bitter truth, which they may not take me either serious but ignore me at your own peril. This deputy thing, from deputy president, deputy governors, it is 0.
Exactly.
It is 0. There's nothing there. And that's why you have seen, and we have brought 4 captions on the roles of the deputy president. It says, you are merely a principal assistant. Yani, in another language, let me tell Kenyans the language they understand better. Okay? When you are deputy, wewe ni mtu ya mkono. Ya president.
The spanner boy for the president.
Period. Hakuna mahali ingine, nothing else. Let us translate that to Nairobi County. Okay? Governor Songo has performed so well without the deputy. Deputy left. Songo has worked for 1 year without deputy governor, and he has no problem, by the way. He's so comfortable, and he's doing a lot of work, and he has done so much for this city, okay? And I would say he's the most performing governor now, because you can see the river boss, what he is doing. Maybe some people may not like him, but what he's doing is something we can take home without the deputy. So this deputy thing, Kenyans, wherever you are, if you are eyeing to be a deputy thing, I don't know, deputy president, deputy governor, it is a 0 thing. And those deputies, the deputy governors, they will tell you. And I wish there could be one Kalembe man. You know, you remember when we had assistant ministers. Kalembe came and said, you know, we have assistant ministers, but we have no job. We don't know what we do here. So this deputy thing is 0. So let us not read much. So if Ruto is a deputy president to Uhuru, you need to understand he's a deputy with only 1 mandate, mutu ya mkono. The rest is politics.
Okay, and that may be true, and that is true, but question is, when you're deputy president, and the reason why the Matiang'i thing is causing jitters in some areas is because there seemed to have been a silent MOU, even if it was between the 2 of them. They've come out in the public and said that Uhuru Kumi, Ruto Kumi. And the question here is, was he a president in waiting until now this came?
Until Kumi. So, until Kumi. So we are not yet there. What we are doing today, Kenyans, we are crossing the bridge, and it is 4 years away. The bridge is 4 years away. We cannot start...
But you know, Honorable Mutambo,
we cannot start talking about it.
Even the good book tells us that a wise man foreseeth evil and hides away from it. I'm not saying it is evil, but we have to cast our eyes and say, what could this mean?
No. To me, I will tell you this means nothing. This is purely administrative, and the president has done the right thing. And another thing we are not even discussing, which is so fundamental, is the way president gave this executive order, bringing in checks and balances and bringing in county commissioners and deputy county commissioners to monitor the other arms of government. You know, we are only discussing Ruto here. We need to understand that they are also, like Kiro would call them, the PCs. They have come back. And they have come back in a big way. And actually, I like it. I remember during our last discussion, we said we took away powers from those administration officers who are actually doing a lot of work. And we were discussing about security. And now, they have come back to checkmate their counterparts in other departments. And those who were in the system before, they'll tell you that there's a book which is very, very popular in those offices called Vote Book. In every department, each department has a photo book. And that photo book is the photo book with the money, all right? And every departmental head had their own photo book. Now they have a prefect by the name provincial administrator, the person who is in either that district or in that county. Okay, they have someone who is checking them. So we are only talking about Matiang'i here.
Only one.
But there are others who are being checked down there. So to me, I like what the president did because it is going to checkmate our resources. Yes.
All right, Steve Ogola, coming to you again, looking at the structures of government. What does this say about ministries? Because there could be, there should be a structure in place that is independent of one CS or a CS which is able to report directly to the presidency or to the different organs to ensure that the work is done. But now we have Dr. Matiang'i literally looking at all the ministries and coordinating national projects. What does that say about the structure of some of those ministries? Is it time that maybe we did away with them?
No, I think the reorganization of government does not offend the Constitution. The president has some discretion, in the performance of his executive functions to reorganize his cabinet and responsibilities without necessarily offending. The only way in which the president can offend the Constitution is if he purports to do something that is remitted elsewhere. Like, let's say, reassigning functions that are properly allocated or assigned to a constitutional commission, an independent office, and then now purporting to give those functions to a cabinet secretary. So that would be unconstitutional and illegal. Now, ultimately, Mr. Gitonga, when all is said and done, the person who is accountable to the people is the president. I've said the Constitution, in terms of Article 131, states that the president is the head of state and government. As head of state, he has a duty to preserve national tranquility, unity, peace, and cohesion. And insofar as the handshake delivers that, he's achieved that mandate. In terms of being responsible for government, he has the discretion to organize government as he does so. But I'm pleading with the president, even as you implement your mandate, because I've said ultimately the person is going to answer to Kenyans. Yes. Do not manipulate provisions of the Constitution which allow you to exclude the deputy president. If you wanted to, you can exclude him without offending the Constitution, but do not go that way and develop or advance the Constitution within the meaning of our preamble, within the meaning of Article 10 that requires consultation, deliberation, co-ownership of the decisions that you're making as the president. Politically, I've already said, there is some presumption that since government is organized at the ballot and what is presented at the ballot is a joint ticket, that honestly must have some meaning and must have some political dividend for the person that holds the office of the deputy president. In fact, knowing our politics as we do, Mr. Gitonga, I have decried Kenyan politics as having been organized around ethnic solidarity. I dare say that the reason why President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto came together is because they thought they had the numbers and the numbers could deliver. You get? In fact, even in between, NASA also came up with a theory of numbers, 10 million strong. You see, politics that is organized around ethnic solidarity will, in the long run, prove to be more harmful than it can benefit us. Because you see now, it means that we don't have ideology. In a perfect constitutional setting, Mr. Gitonga, Jubilee would fight out in there and they would stick there. NASA would fight out there and they would stick there and hope that they can convince voters, some of the Jubilee supporters, to cross over and vote for the NASA candidate. Not building political blocks based on ethnic numbers. That is what will delay or defer the realization of the vision that the Constitution seeks to achieve. What I would like to hear is this. If it is accountability, let us isolate the questions of accountability in government and address them as that reason. If for one reason or another, the deputy president is found to be unfit because maybe there are proven claims of corruption, then even if it was the Jubilee candidate, he would not be voted out. But don't sideline him, don't decampaign him, do not delegitimize him simply because now you don't care, you're exiting. That politics of betrayal, and I'm highlighting it because it is still within our national psyche, that even in NASA, we are glad that perhaps NASA was not in government because the same problem would have been. I am not convinced that Jubilee is any different from NASA. Had NASA won the presidency, Kalonzo would be struggling to assert himself, perhaps, would be struggling to assert himself within the political arrangement of power if you look at our own politics the way you know it today. I want to urge Kenyans to begin to understand political elites for who they are. These people care for short-term gains. President Uhuru Kenyatta is exiting. So he can waive the sanctity of legacy politics to outmaneuver Ruto if he wanted to, without offending the Constitution and the law. We also know that in NASA there was that arrangement where Raila was supposed to have gone for one term. And in 2017, they raised it, but then he went on to run as the candidate. What we must begin to deepen, the conversation we must begin to deepen, is how to institutionalize our political parties. People should fight for space and fight even using litigation to remain there to strengthen democracy. If Deputy Ruto was serious in terms of also expanding his space as a deputy, he could raise a constitutional question. Although the president has the mandate to organize government as he does, can it really be said that he can do so without consultation, even a limited form of consultation and participation of his deputy? And that would be isolated as a constitutional question to be answered.
Okay,
that way we will deflect the question.
We need to wind up now because time is really showing us its back. So I'll give you a minute each. I'll start with you, Honorable Mtambo, your closing comments and remarks, and more particularly towards what you'd like Kenyans to know, because this is likely to play out, and politicians will be politicians at the end of the day.
What I would like Kenyans to know about this whole thing is that actually the person or the people who should be worried about their duties being taken away is two people, not deputy president. It's either Kenya or Waita, because those are the people who are with the current, with the previous setup, the people who are continuing the government affairs was either Waita or Kenya, the person, the head of public service. Those are the people who should be worried, not the deputy president. Deputy president has his stand intact, and I don't think there is, as a captain, I've never had anybody telling me or ringing the bell, stop there, we want somebody to alight, and this person is Ruto. I've not had that. So the ship is still going on, and I'm propelling it and I'm navigating it well. There's no problem in Jubilee.
Honorable Kira, your closing comments?
Well, I think our debate should be on the role of provincial administration as envisaged today. We should have the courage to say, yes, we said we'd do away with provincial administration. It has come back under the county, the regional directors and so forth of administration. We should have the courage to say, yes, can we institutionalize them so that they are part and parcel of our language, so that we do not have to sneak people through the back door and we make them the focus of coordination of government activities. Number two, I just want to share with my friend here, that Steve, that I do agree with him that politics of deceit may be pervading the atmosphere, but what is more important for us is that inclusivity cannot be complete if a section of Kenya is excluded in the name of the deputy president and his supporters. So possibly for the president to get some national cohesion through the bridge initiatives is to include not only the deputy president but other leaders across the land, so that we agree such that the Constitution, if we were to go for a referendum, is not a referendum about individuals, that people are looking for jobs, people are doing this. It's a